All right, here we go, everyone. Another awesome episode of the All Around Adventure podcast, and I'm coming at you all from Bin-Walkin in Alto, Michigan today with the creator and the builder and founder and many other titles for this place. I got Buck Hough with me today. What's going on, Buck?
Hi, hey everybody. How are we doing today?
I always like coming back here because what you've done with this place and the way you set it up to accommodate hikers is just, it's always nice to come back here because it's just, here we are, we're sitting fireside. It's nice and warm and cozy in here. So, I guess just to kind of kick this off, this idea to build this shelter, I mean, where did it come from, man?
Well, I've been hiking since I was about 2 years old, walking down the woods. And I remember one of my hikes in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. A guy came over and talked to me and my hiking buddy and offered us a piece of fruit. And that piece of fruit to me, after 4 days of hiking in the woods and eating dehydrated food, was just awesome.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give back. I wanted to give back to the trail, and I wanted to give back to the hikers, and I knew how much I appreciated it. So I started out being 2 miles off trail, and in an area where it's a lot of road walk, there isn't a lot of camping available. I wanted to offer camping for the thru hikers so they'd have a place to spend the night.
Right.
So the first thing I did was build the outhouse because, you got to have a place to go.
You got to do what you got to do. Right.
And I know hikers have their tents and all their gear with them. So I thought, okay, I'll offer them a place to set their tent up. Facility to use, and all's good. I invited Rue McCormick to come and stay, and he ended up staying a week with us. And my wife enjoyed it as much as I did. We super enjoyed meeting him and chatting with him. So we started inviting others that were coming up or down the trail, and still wanted to do more. So I saw the bin down the road at a farm that was getting torn down. And the bin was the only thing that was still standing. And I hated to see it get rolled over and sold for scrap metal.
Right.
So I got in touch with the owner of the property and told her what I was doing and that I let hikers on the North Country Trail stay here. And I was interested in the bin and maybe making it into a hiker shelter. And she knew of the North Country Trail and was real excited about it. She said, if you can get it out of here, you can have it. So I worked hard and loaded her up and brought her down.
Well, it's nice that you have this set up now because as we were talking a little bit earlier today, is that this stretch of the North Country Trail along the southern part of Michigan's Lower Peninsula, there's really not much in the way along the trail shelter-wise. I think it's probably maybe goodness, the last actual shelter I had might have either been up in the Manistee Forest or maybe even as far as north as the Upper Peninsula. But down this way, there's not really much in the way of shelters, though.
Yeah, I believe Petoskey has the shelter on trail, which is the next one up. But once you start getting below Lowell, even just camping areas are hard to find. You don't have the dispersed camping that's allowed in the national forests and stuff. So
yeah,
it's pretty hard. And I don't care for the stealth campers. I don't necessarily think that's a good way to go.
Sure.
So if we can offer them a place to stay, legal, honest, and give everybody a good night's rest and get them on their way, then that's what we're going to do.
Right. Well, and you're absolutely right. Just having this nice little safe haven kind of sort of getaway because, I think as hikers, we can slug it out in the woods pretty well and feel pretty good just being in our tents and our sleeping bags and everything like that. But sometimes there's still something to be said about having a warm place to sleep, a roof over your head, getting to take a shower and
dry
things
feet.
Like that too. Exactly.
Someplace to dry your clothes out. I keep a line inside. The North Country Trail, we have winter here. And we've had winter hikers come through. Josh, you were one.
Yeah.
And when you've slept in a wet tent a couple nights in a row, it's nice to be able to sleep inside on a dry floor and dry your equipment out too. So
yeah, well, it's also just kind of gives you that a little bit of motivation to kind of just push through those tough times too, because you and I, we were in touch for a good while when I was working my way south, when I was doing Operation Wolverine Walk, and then I'm just thinking to myself, okay, yes, finally, I get to this place pretty good. Buck's been talking it up for me, and, you delivered on everything that you told me that I was going to get when I got down here.
Well, the North Country Trail, being the longest national scenic trail, it's not easy. And we're just below the halfway point of the full length of the trail. Mm-hmm. And that's a point in the trail where a lot of hikers will think back, boy, it's been 3 months, 4 months that I've been on trail. That's I can remember, that seems like a long time ago when I started. I remember, and you're thinking, and I'm only halfway. So if we can give them, give hikers, chat them up, give them a place to come, maybe give them a meal, some fresh food, and a warm place to stay. Hey, we're all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then of course, all the hikers that come through here, they kind of leave their marks, so to speak. They leave behind something. Of course, you got the guest log book for everyone, just like right there as soon as you walk in. And then, we also have this little nugget right here. This is a Operation Wolverine Walk challenge coin that you got nicely set on display. This was from me. And then, of course, the outhouse has, retired hiking shoes there. So it's just, I think, having this, permanent place, this shelter where all these hikers come through, they leave their stories, their memorabilia. It kind of just does create a little bit more of that like helpfulness, that inspiration for, those who, like you said, maybe kind of at that like crossroads point thinking, do I really want to go on and keep going, or do I want to stop? But it's just like, hopefully it gets them to keep going.
Yeah. We had Aaron Soda recently came through and nailed up a pair of shoes. And I gave him a challenge when he was at the Mackinac Bridge. He was ready to switch into his third pair of shoes. And I gave him the challenge that he couldn't walk that second pair all the way down here and nail them on the outhouse. And sure enough, he made it down here with them, and he was ready to change them out at that point in time, but he's proud to have them on the side of our outhouse, along with yours and Rue's and a pair of mine, and hopefully that turns into something big, and everyone can start leaving their Trek shoes through on the outhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but what I want to ask you about next is just, obviously you got a chance to host all these different hikers from the North Country Trail, but like just the trail itself and you getting out on the trail, what have kind of been some of your highlights, maybe favorite spots? And I guess I might even ask you about some of your misadventures because, I think being out on the trail, not everything is all sunshine and rainbows. We do have misadventures from time to time. So what do you got for us?
Yeah, not everything's sunshine and lollipops, and I like to spread that word. My favorite section of trail probably has been from the bottom of Whitefish Bay at Noma King down to Brevoort Lake. East Lake area is just great. You've got the whole Niagara Escarpment in there. And that was something that caught me by surprise. I've been in the Eastern UP. I grew up visiting the Eastern UP and spending time up there. And I really didn't even know that was there. And it was a surprise to me. And I really found that enjoyable. It was a really nice walk. It wasn't real hilly. Once you get past Brevoort, you've got a few of the PUDs, the pointless ups and downs.
Yep, I remember those very fondly. Yes, indeed.
but basically the southern trek there is decently level, and it's not hard, and it's well maintained by this shore to shore chapter. So that's probably my favorite section. Misadventures, I don't like to really call misadventures because when you're out adventuring like that and you're out, I like to think of it more as just a walk in the woods. And you can't expect everything to go right. I don't think any of those stand out anyways. I think what stands out is the memories and the enjoyment you find when you search out and seek new places. I think that's where the enjoyment lies. It's the misadventures you really don't remember that much anyways.
Yeah, well, at the very least, if you get these misadventures, you just chalk them up to like learning experiences too.
Exactly.
And sometimes I think more often than not, they're kind of just like, oh, well, dang, I forgot to bring this piece of gear. Or, hey, this piece of gear, isn't working very well for me, so let me not bring it next time. Or if it fails, let me try a different brand or a different company or something like that. It's usually not something catastrophic. It's just might something that, like, let's say, may leave you uncomfortable for a night or something like that.
Sure, and it's the challenge of figuring out how you're going to work through that. I mean, that's part of being an adventurer, being out on trail. Is what do you really need? I find that hikers tend to pack for what scares them.
Right. Yeah.
People I've hiked with, if they're scared that they're going to get hungry on the trail, they usually pack too much food. If they're scared they're going to get cold at night, they usually pack too many clothes.
Yeah.
What do you really need, and what is going to work best for what you do need? I think the knowledge of how to deal with those situations is more important than the objects that you carry.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It just really involves actually just getting out on the trail and, seeing that. I mean, because I think like each hiker kind of has like, his or her own unique style, their way of going about it. Like, too. I mean, we were talking about Rue earlier, that Rue was just kind of this minimalist hiker who brought hardly anything with him when he was setting up the American Perimeter Trail. But then, yeah, you see some that looks like they got their bedroom in, like, their 65-liter backpack hauling it around. So
yeah, some of them carry the weight and some of them don't. And I do believe that you pack for your fears.
Yeah,
I believe that to be a true statement.
Yeah, I thought so as well. And then, of course, here in Michigan, too, depending what time of year you decide to come through and the distance you're going to, you kind of need to be prepared for, well, a lot of things. Because when I started on the Wisconsin-Michigan state line, it was like late August. So pretty much hiked a good chunk of fall in the Upper Peninsula. And then by the time I got down to y'all, it was wintertime, like full swing. And
I remember the story of you just south of here with your tube freezing from your water bladder because it was so cold. So
yeah, that
now see, you had forgotten about that. It's the misadventures that we don't remember. It's the good stuff we do, like Bin-Walkin.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, speaking of like what we remember, I mean, obviously, it seems like what stands out in a lot of hikers' memory when they come through North Country Trail, especially in Michigan, they say that it's the people that stand out the most. Like here, like even Rue, when he started all the way out in Bend, Oregon, like went all the way through the Southwest, through the South, came up here. He says that trail angels in Michigan were just basically like second to none. So what has that been like so far? Because you've been kind of just interacting with other trail angels here in Michigan to, get tips and tricks, insights, or, just staying connected to let each other know, hey, such and such hikers on their way through, can you help them out? So just the community aspect behind it.
It's amazing to me how many people offer assistance to the hikers here in Michigan. And I believe that that's just part of what Michigan is. I remember growing up, we had a sign on the wall of the house that said, "Let me live in a house by the side of the road, and let me be a friend to man." And we actually lived by that. I've changed that a little bit to "let me live in a house by the side of the trail and share what I have with others." And that's really what my goal is.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I experienced like the whole way. It's kind of almost, I wouldn't say that it's strange necessarily, but maybe it's strange like right now in this day and age. I think that there's this whole notion that like, the country or, humans, like we're all divided. There's all this division and so forth. And we don't really need to dive too deep down that rabbit hole or anything like that. But it's just going along the North Country Trail like I did. That would seem like such a strange thing to say because that's not what I felt. That's not what I experienced at all.
And that's not what I see either. I hikers that come through here from all political backgrounds, from different countries. I've had hikers from lots of different states, different backgrounds, and just kindness and giving, and they love to share their story. But they also love to have a place where they can come out and be alone and be quiet. So it's really worked out nice to have them separated. I know a lot of the trail angels will invite you into their home. And I've been told it's a little more uncomfortable to be in somebody's home like that. They really appreciate this little living space for them out here as opposed to that. As far as the community goes, we're in touch. We're really relatively new at this. The bin is really only a year old. I think it was 10/9 when I brought it down here. So we're really sitting at about a year now, and we've been hosting for 2 years. So we're trying to build up the community. We're trying to get people north up the trail that I can communicate with and can communicate with me as people are coming through. Hey, so-and-so needs help. Hey, these people are coming. We had the Mausers down from Marquette. They visited while they were in town here, they were just super great people. We had a blast with them. You ended up staying with them.
Yeah, I did.
We had a blast with them, and it's nice to know who I'm sending people to. So we're trying to meet up and get with these other trail angels in the state to try and make it kind of our own community.
Yeah. So, and of course the bin itself, has come a long way. Cause I remember you showing me pictures of just like the way that the bin was just like out there. It's completely covered. There's weeds surrounding it. There's weeds growing over it and all kinds of stuff like that. It's just, definitely not a site where I would dare say most people would go to and be like, yeah, I could do something with that, but you did, you saw this. So, I guess it's just, what was kind of sort of, I guess, like the evolution of, and what did the process entail of getting it over here and setting it up and everything like that?
Well, the hardest part for me was when she gave it to me. She told me I only had 2 days to get it out of there because they were about ready to get rid of it, and it probably could have ended up there. So, what I did was go down and basically jacked the whole bin up. I put sandwich boards on the walls, and I used a tractor jack and lifted it up, set it on some 16-foot boards, and then I slid that onto a trailer. It was about a quarter of a mile down the road, so it wasn't a real long travel. When I got it here, set it on the ground, I had already dug up the sod in the area where I was going to set it, and looked at it, sat back, looked at it, and decided, what can I do with this? What are my ideas with this? What I don't want to go and spend a whole bunch of money on it.
Sure.
I want people to be able to stay dry. And it just seems like everything that happened as I needed it. I needed insulation, and one of the customers at my work was getting rid of this poly material, and we were to dispose of it, and it worked excellent for insulation on the bin. And when you were here, I had just got done insulating, so there wasn't any of the wood here that's on the walls now. My wife had some ideas on the bunks and the table and the sink over here, and we set that up kind of to her what she thought might be kind of neat.
Sure.
And it worked out pretty well. It doesn't take up that much space for the bunk. There's still a lot of wandering around room in here. And then she kind of urged me that we needed to cover the walls with something more than the insulation I had up. So I started collecting some of the pallets from work that were going to get destroyed or thrown away, and did the herringbone on the walls, and I think it turned out pretty well.
I was actually wondering about that because I think, like that came in a little bit later, probably I think maybe the second time I stayed here.
Yeah, I think it was here on the second time. Really the only money that we've put into it was the 2 windows, and those are mobile home windows, so they were rather inexpensive.
Sure.
And the light fixture, I thought the light fixture with a little bit of a fan, because being a metal building sitting in the sun in the summertime, it can get pretty warm in a metal building like that. So I thought a little bit of a ceiling fan. But otherwise, we really don't have the monies tied up into it. It's more of a labor thing. I spent most of last winter doing the build here. So,
yeah, and like I said, it came out really good. Not only just inside the bin, but also outside the bin. We got the outhouse. You just set up a picnic table and a solar shower out there too. We got a fire ring going and everything.
We did a solar shower this summer that has really worked out well, and Everybody likes to have that shower at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I wouldn't say it's going to be a hot shower, but the water temperature gets up in the 80s, so it's warm enough. It's better than using the hose. So.
Yeah, indeed. So, and then it's just, we got this really nice view. I mean, just like behind your property too. It's just all nice and open. There's trees in the distance and everything like that. I even remember waking up a couple of nights out here, and I'll just step outside to get some air, and then I see some deer like in the backfield too.
Absolutely.
So.
We have a lot of deer out here. We've got the sandhill cranes in the field quite often, and the geese are flying over right now. It's getting on harvest season. The corn will be down soon, so you'll have that view back to the woods open back up, and the fire ring is nice if you like to sit out at the fire. We've had a couple of fires with a couple of people, roast some marshmallows out there while we're chatting. I really love to hear the stories of adventurers, and these guys usually have pretty good stories.
Yeah, very much so. And actually, yeah, it's just something to be said about just doing these fireside chats, because it's like, and it didn't happen very often when I was hiking through, just because I was hiking solo, and of course I was kind of going at that time in year where it's just like no one else was out there doing very much in the way of long distance hiking either. But when I would get to places like Pictured Rocks, of course, Pictured Rocks seems to be like booked up like all the time now.
Constantly.
And so it wasn't, it wasn't uncommon to see like, a lot of people like starting fires and sitting around fire rings, and I just go sit with them and hear their stories. So
Caveman TV, man.
Exactly.
Caveman TV. I'll tell you, throughout the history of man, more business has been done around a fire than at any table.
Yeah. And, we talked about this before, and, this is one of the things that I kind of sort of touched on, with me being an archaeologist and anthropologist, is that, like fire is where, a lot of stuff happened. I mean, that's where warriors would discuss battle strategies. Parents would bond with their children. We would sing, we would dance, we would, community members would like settle grievances and discuss ideas and innovations and how to improve their communities. And it's like, I think we tried replicating this, online with like social media and things like that, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. No. I call it Caveman TV for a reason.
Exactly.
That's what they did. They sat at the fire and chatted and became close. It's not an online. It's actual in person talking face to face. And it's just something that I really enjoy. And I tend to sense that of the hiker spirit, is that's something they enjoy as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just, I think it's primal. I mean, like we can get another rabbit hole, we can get really deep down. Yeah, but it's just, I mean, just that's how humans are just, designed to communicate with one another. It's just like, I mean, if you think about it, like hundreds of years ago, if something happened on the other side of the world, would we ever have known about it? Were we ever meant to know about it?
No.
But now it's just like, with internet, we're just so bombarded with like all of this stuff.
Within seconds of it happening.
Exactly. But it's just nice to just, put the phones away and, get around the campfire and just, actually have good quality, raw conversations with people,
and get out and go for a walk in the woods. I mean, really, that's all hiking is just a walk in the woods.
Yeah. And then it's just, and you and I, we've covered some ground too. We've gotten to go hiking, in
I
some of the trails here.
I was the first one in Michigan to hike with you.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I will admit though, it's just, well, actually I wasn't really too reluctant on bringing you on and having you come out and hike with me. I mean, there was kind of sort of the part of me that says, well, I was alone this whole time, and then, let me finish alone. But it's like, you know what? I'm actually lonely as hell out on this trail for this long. So it's like, let me get someone else out here for a change to, share this experience with me a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. It's just, and I've definitely kind of come to like that about the hiking community too, just whether it's the hikers or the trail angels. And oftentimes trail angels share that same duty. They're hikers as well. Of course, many if not most of them. But it's just, it is really something about just connecting out in nature again. I mean, again, I think how humans were just naturally supposed to.
I believe that to be true.
Absolutely. So, so I guess kind of like looking forward a little bit in the bin, what do you kind of sort of see for the bin, like, in the future? I mean, we were talking about it. It seems like the bin itself is actually going to become recognized and appear on like map updates and things like
Yep,
that too.
as of right now, we're being added to the North Country Trails map through Avenza and their website. So we will be basically a little teepee is marked as a camping site. If you click on that, it'll pull up our information. But I'm also in the process of working with the North Country Trail now to have the road walk moved to be going right past the house. That way it will add that offering to the trail rather than being 2 miles off the trail.
Right. Yeah, because the stretch of trail that kind of goes along like this way anyway, that's road walk itself.
It's all road walk.
Yeah.
We would just be moving the road walk. And that's going very well. I'm thinking by probably next summer we'll have that accomplished. But it's something that's proposed at the moment. It's just not through.
Right. Yeah, a little bit of red tape to get through here, even with something. It was seeming as simple as that. I'm sure it's a process.
Yeah, and I'd like to also strengthen the community in the state to help hikers, the Trail Angel community, and get to know more people up along the trail as we go. So those are all goals of mine. I'd like to bring us together as more of a group, and like I said, with the Mausers coming down here and the Dove Day and the days up in Petoskey and just work as a tag team on some of these hikers and really make them enjoy our trail.
Yes, absolutely. So all right, so what I have for you next, kind of before we wrap up our conversation here, is I also ask all my guests to issue a challenge to our listeners, because I feel like any information that we may give over the podcast is great and all, but it's just like it doesn't really mean much if, our listeners don't follow it up with action, following them listening. So what challenge would you issue to our listeners today for them to get out there and start living a more adventurous life?
Well, I'm going to challenge. I know your audience is of not necessarily just along the North Country Trail, so I'm going to challenge you to just go out and try to find a local trail and take a walk in the woods. Just enjoy nature. Be quiet. Listen. Walk. It's pretty easy. Everybody can do it.
Yeah.
Everybody
exactly.
can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, there you go. Really, yeah, just get out there, really. So
just get out there, find a trail, get out there and walk.
Okay, all right. And so what I have next for you is my final three. These are three. I'd like to think that they're fun questions. That may be subjective, but all my guests get asked these questions at the end of an episode. So, of course, Buck, you're going to get asked these as well. And the first of those is, what is your favorite place that you've been to so far?
Pictured Rocks is just an amazing, amazing place. I was lucky enough to have been through there 25 years ago before it was used the way it is now.
Yeah.
It was a little more pristine at the time, but that will always stand out in my memory and in my heart as one of my favorite places.
Yeah, I certainly know exactly what you mean. Shoot, even a decade ago, my brother and I, we would hike there because my brother used to go to Michigan Tech, up in Houghton. So it's like if I would go see him, like maybe during the summer when he had some break time, we would try to get in some hiking, and Pictured Rocks was one of our, go-to places. But back then it was just as simple as, you show up to the visitor center, talk to one of the park rangers and say, okay, we want to camp here, here, and here. They put it all on one, that nice tough permit that you just strap on your backpack and you're good to go. And
well, then, we have a family cabin up in Grand Marais, which is on the east side of the Pictured Rocks. So, as a kid, we were able to get out there and see that stuff, and it's just a big part of my memory.
Yeah, it really is something, but it's a little bit harder to access at this point in time now. Especially since it's
more logistically challenging.
That's a good way of putting it. It still is beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's amazing.
It will still uplift your spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just remember even this last time around, it was just really nice being out there again because, a lot of those, it's kind of funny how a lot of the places, even if you don't go to them for years, it's just like, it just kind of brings back that nostalgia as soon as you see it again. It's just like this is how it was like back then when I saw it, you know, all those years ago. So,
and it's still here.
Yeah, and then hopefully it stays there for many more years to come. So that way, you know, those that come after us can enjoy it too. So right on.
Well, maybe when you're an old man, you can make it back to Bin-Walkin. And
I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will. And indeed. All right. So the next question I have for you in my final three is, what is one thing on your bucket list that you have yet to do?
I gotta say, I would love to hike the Superior Hiking Trail. I have a love affair with that big lake up there called Superior. It just is, it does something for me, and I have not been able to do that, and I would like to do that.
You know, that lake does something for me too, and that is it scares the hell out of me.
I understand that about you. I don't see the fear of it. I don't see that part of it. I see the beauty, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely a gorgeous, beautiful lake. But I, know
even killers can be beautiful.
Yeah, I guess so. Yes, we can come up with many we could really dive down a rabbit hole on that one for sure. But yeah, it's just I think just for me, I don't know if it's so much. It is fear to a degree, but it's also, I think, a level of respect. You know, when you see a force of nature that powerful,
she must be respected.
Exactly,
she must be respected.
Yeah, because I mean that's a lake that doesn't give up her dead. So
that's
it's
what
just
I hear.
So, and then also it's like it doesn't matter, and anything you see in the weather forecast for that day too, just take it with a grain of salt, because
it can change in 10 minutes.
Exactly. If that lake says, nah, I feel like, sending a storm y'all's way, she will,
and it can
out of the blue.
It can change out of nothing.
Yeah. So that's, so, I mean, I definitely loved, especially that part, east of Grand Marais when I was heading towards Tequanimon Falls and just being along the lake. It was so beautiful, especially because they had some pretty high ridges that I could see the lake so well. But I'm just thinking to myself, just don't send a storm my way, please. I like these clear skies right now. Just don't rain on me, please.
Yeah.
But I mean, she will if she wants to. So that's up to her.
That's another one of my favorite sections there, walking the lake there.
Yeah, right by the mouth of the Two-Hearted River. Yeah. So
it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, which, I mean, if anyone who doesn't know what we're referring to, please look this up online and see exactly what we're referring to, or even better, find your way up there yourselves.
I would recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So that's my second question. Now the last question, and this is a two-parter. What is your favorite animal, and have you seen this animal in the wild?
Well, I got to say, it's the porcupine.
The porcupine.
Porcupine. The porcupine is the smart one in the woods, and the other animals listen to it. The Inuit people in Alaska will tell you if you see a porcupine in the wild, you should chase after it and swat it on the behind with a stick. He'll then go and tell all the other animals what a fierce warrior you are, and they'll leave you alone. So the porcupine, that's my guy. I like the porcupines. And yes, at East Lake in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, I came across the porcupine on the trail. Now, I've seen many of them while not hiking, but as far as hiking on the trail, East Lake, there was that porcupine, and I grabbed the stick.
Now, all the other animals will just, clear way as you're coming through.
They left me alone the whole trip. That porcupine told them all what a fierce warrior I was.
Well, I gotta say, this is definitely a first one to come up on the podcast, and I've had quite an array and quite an assortment of animals that have been brought up on the All Around Adventure podcast. Everything from capybaras to different birds of prey, roadrunner, it was one of them, and then but a porcupine, that's definitely a first. So
I gotta love them.
Alrighty, so now before we call it a day, Buck, so if we got hikers coming through, hikers listening to this episode or watching us on YouTube right now, and they want to, connect with you to maybe spend a night in the bin and get to come, chat with you and also get to enjoy some of Jenny's cooking, how do we set that up, man?
Well, look us up on Facebook. The page is Bin-Walkin. I'm sure Josh can throw a link up on this.
I sure will.
And that's really my contact information is going to be found on that page. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Okay. All right. And yes, I will certainly get that linked up in the show notes for the podcast. And also, again, if anyone's watching on YouTube, they could find it right there, make it nice and easy and convenient for them. So, all right. Well, Buck, I want to thank you again for having me here in the bin, and just thank you for sitting down and chatting with me and, sharing your story from, your time on the trail and also the time building your shelter here. And just appreciate you and how you're showing up in the world, man. So thanks a lot.
Well, thank you for coming back. And, I like to think that we make friends here.
I couldn't agree more. So right on.
Right on.